Hey guys, welcome to the video. What an iconic riff, right? And the fact that guitarists across the world can now perform that very riff using a tool such as the Boss GM800 is just amazing. So in this video, I'd like to break down exactly how I created the preset, and it is based on actually the first preset on the GM800. And there's also a couple of other concepts that I want to discuss, such as the hold feature, pitching down notes, and also the ability to actually turn certain notes on and off. Okay, so without further ado, let's get into a breakdown of the actual sound itself, and then we'll progress from there and look at the different concepts. Let's just take a quick look at how I've got this set up first of all. Now I've got the GM800 plugged from the output directly into the GX10's effects loop, and I'm just using that purely to be able to loop the sound. Otherwise, I would typically run it as a stereo output into a DAW stereo mixer, whatever you want, so that you can make use of the actual stereo sounds. But in this case, I wanted to be able to loop it. The GX10 only has a mono send and return. So I've basically plugged that directly in there so that I could then switch over to just my direct signal, which is coming from my NUX wireless directly into the GX10. And then I've got the Boss GK5 pickup, which is their new divided pickup that is cabled with a TRS cable as opposed to the, I think it was a 13-pin cable that they used previously, and that just runs into the GM800. Now, I've programmed a control switch on the GX10 so that I can switch between the synth sound and the direct sound. So here's that's the GX10, and when I hit the Control 1 pedal, I've got the synth sound. You could blend both of the sounds if you wanted, but in this scenario, I wanted to have the sounds completely separate. You can see that I've got the low string when it's in synth mode. So switch that back to synth. So it's playing just a bass note. So the ability in the GM800 to be able to split the scene in separate parts and actually have separate parts playing different strings is pretty flexible. And we're going to have a look at how I've actually broken that down. When I'm hitting that note, and it's actually pitched down to a C, which is the original drone note on the song Jump by Van Halen. When I hit the Control 1 pedal on the GM800, it actually holds the note so that it'll play it infinitely. So essentially, let's just quickly break down the actual chords that are being played on this iconic riff. It's essentially just a 3-chord progression, and it's G, C, and F, and it's playing in basically triads that give it a specific voicing. We'll have a look at that in a moment, but if I was to play this in its raw chord form on guitar, this is how it would sound. So you can see it's quite basic, but now when you transform those chords into triads and have to play it up an octave, and this last one actually is a little bit unusual. So rather than playing the G bass note, it actually plays plays the C as a bass note instead. I'm not actually sure what that chord would be called, but someone can probably comment in the comment section and let me know what the actual chord is. But it just gets that slightly dissonant sound, and is what makes this unique. Rather than going to the G there, it's so if I play that again. So the chords themselves are quite simple. When I use the synth sound, very simple chord voicings, but just genius in its simplicity. And that droning C note is just epic. So let's now jump into the GM800's Tone Studio software, and we'll have a look at how I've actually created this sound. This sound started its life as the stock preset 001 sweep strings, and this is what the sound is. Okay, so it's a very long decay pad string sound. So by changing some of the parts of this scene and then adjusting some of the attack and decay, you'll see how I've actually constructed the sound itself. So let's pop over to my jump synth preset, which I've saved at preset number 2. So if you wanted to copy this sound, essentially these are the parts that I've got. So now part 1 and 2 are playing on these high strings. But then I've got Monster Bass 2 and Monster Bass 1 both playing parts for the low C. So first of all, let's have a look at how we actually define the strings that these parts are playing on. So if we're on part number 1 here and we click into Edit, then you can go to String here and you can see that I've got string 5 and string 6 muted. So when I play my low E and A string, actually, sorry, let's just jump out of there. I'm just going to turn these parts off so we don't get confused here. Okay, let's jump back into that. So now when I play those 2 notes, they're actually not playing. If I turn this string 5 back off, so you can see now it's playing. But essentially I just want to be able to play the high triads on the first 4 strings, and then the bass parts will only play on string 5 and 6. So that's true for both parts 1 and 2. Now let's have a look at where I've actually edited the sound here. So if we go to Tone Select, I'm using patch number 260 OB Bright Star, which is like an Oberheim synth. And if you want to copy these settings, then just freeze the video frame and then just copy what I've done here. So you can see that the cutoff directly affects the tone. Goes from a very muffled filtered sound. If I just So I just approximated the sound based on the reference track and just edited these until they basically sounded right. Now the attack, decay and release I've basically turned all the way down so that it's got a very sharp attack. When you hit the note, it starts straight away. And the decay you're hearing is actually the reverb that I've got set in the multi-effects. So you can see I've got the reverb send all the way up. And basically that's part number 1. If we close that and go into part number 2, now this has got a very low level. If I turn part 1 off, I mean, you're almost not hearing it there at all. So it's up to you whether you wanted to get another sound similar to this patch 260 and just duplicate it and then just alter the sound slightly to really fatten it up. Again, the sound itself just adds this ambient thing in the background that I like, which may or may not be in the original version of Jump, but for the purposes of my sound, I've just left it in there. Let's now move over to the 2 bass sounds. So we've got part 3 here, and then part 4. So part 4 is essentially giving me that sub bass rumble. So you can see that I've got it pitched down an extra octave compared to part 3. And if we go into the actual edit here and we have a look at the tone itself, you can basically copy these settings. So it's Monster Bass 2 and it's preset number 0713 under the synth bass category. And I haven't really messed with any of the settings here. This is almost default out of the box sound. Basically, where I have edited it will be in the actual pitch itself. If we go to the string tab here, we know that we've got all of the strings turned off except for the low E string. However, if we have a look at the transposition here, I've got the pitch shift set to 4 steps below, or 4 semitones. And to be able to achieve this, one thing to mention is if you're trying to get this to work and it's not working for you, then you need to make sure that you're set to user. If I just go to say an open D, you can see that these are all grayed out because it's automatically setting the alternate tuning for you. However, because I want to set my own tuning, I just need to set that to user, and then I can actually pitch. I can pitch these down to whatever I want. Okay, so that gives me then my drop tuning, which is 2 tones down or 4 semitones, and that is also true for part, let's go here. Same thing on my sub bass. I've set it down to that, so it's a low C basically. So that's how to set the pitch and the tone of the actual sound. Now when I play the 2 basses together, all together, so that's the sound, and you can see it's actually quite an easy sound to achieve. And now if we have a look at what I've got running in the effects here, so you see I've got no effects on 1 and 2. I've got a little bit of chorus and delay setting. If I go here, we've got the CE1 chorus, and I've just got it set to 30 intensity and the levels up to 127. And then if we have a look at the reverb I've got set, I've got the Integra 7 reverb, and these are the settings. So it's a plate reverb. It's got a fairly long decay time of 3.5 seconds, and the level is very high. Okay, and again, you can adjust this to taste. So that's the basic sound. Now let's have a look at the hold function. So as you know, when I've hit the low C note or the low E string, I'm getting that monster bass sound, and when I hit the Control 1 pedal, it's actually holding it, so then I can go ahead and play the triad part of the riff. So if we go into the Control and Assign here, now I've essentially turned all these functions off because I want to assign them just specifically for this preset. So in Assign here, you can see that I've got part hold, so part 4 and part 3, part hold. So that means when I hit the Control 1 pedal, it will just hold whatever I play. Now you could do this for, say, a string sound. Now let me just let me go back to that sweep strings sound here, and if we wanted to set a hold so we can actually play like a pad and just let it continue playing, we could actually quite easily do that with our control assigns here. So under assignment, we can turn it on. We go edit. Now what do you want it to do? So we go to the target category and we will go to part hold, and we will tell it which part we want to actually hold. Now if we keep that to 1, we've got it set to the Control 1 pedal. We could also set it to the onboard Control 2 pedal, and we set our target so it's off when the pedal isn't engaged, but then when we hit the control switch, the actual hold function will come into play. So now let's just do that. Let me just hold a chord, and then we'll hear it ringing out. So you can see it's quite an easy function to engage. You could do some nice sort of looping things over a pad, have it ringing out, or in the case that I've used for the jump solo, the jump riff, where I've actually just let that low C note just hanging there. But essentially that's how you program the hold function. And if we just go back into our jump synth here, you've basically got 16 different parameters that you can assign for either of the two onboard control pedals, or you can set them to some external sources as well. So you've got, if you've got any other control pedals connected, or if you've got an external expression pedal connected. Some of the old GK pickups had some switches on them, so you could actually do that. You could set control switches where you've got controllers on your DAW also being affected. So it's quite flexible in terms of what you can control, and in terms of the different parameters you've got. So you can literally control absolutely anything within the GM800, and you can do it on a per part basis. So you can actually select for instance, change the tone within a certain part. You can have multi-effects changing. You can change strings, including pitch. There is so much control here, it's ridiculous. So here's all the different effects. So if I wanted to have, say, the humanizer changing vowel sounds, I could actually do that with the use of a control pedal or an expression pedal. You can change things like the sweep of a phaser. What else have we got here? Flanger. We've got all the different modulation effects that you can adjust any parameter. So if we, for an example, just go to effects 1 where I've got the CE1, and you can have the intensity here. We can actually have it so that we've got different intensities between the on and off position of the control pedal. So again, very flexible. That's just a brief introduction to the controls and the signs. We're going to get a little bit deeper into that in future videos. But for now, I just wanted to break down how I've got this synth set up and the few little parameters that I've changed within that. So I really hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, or if you found it useful, please consider liking and subscribing so that you get up to date with future videos that I release about the GM800. Bye for now.